Ciao jewelry makers, I'm Joey Balistreri and today's video begins with an advisory. This video is not to be taken too seriously.
And I have just returned from a road trip that I took with my son to Port Charlotte, Florida, that is south of me. And my son is a huge Lego lover, and he loves this shop that is called Bricks and Minifigs in Port Charlotte. There are other locations. They do vintage and resale Lego, and they have some new things too, but they had large bins that you could sort through and choose whichever pieces you wanted, fill a bin, which a lot of bead shops do that as well. But while I was there spending time with him, I started to think about making jewelry with some of the Lego pieces. Some of the bricks are beautifully shaped, wonderful colors, and many of them already have a hole, so it's not necessary to drill a hole. So anyway, I had to do my own container because he doesn't share. If I ask him to put some things in his container and then give it to me, he never does. So I've learned my lesson. So I have my own container, which looks like Lego bricks, but in reality, these are jewelry supplies. So I can't wait to show you my idea and make some pieces. This would be wonderful gifts for children's teachers, maybe even gifts for children, maybe even something you could do with your children. You will have to determine their ages and, their skill level and the safety of what we're going to do. But I think it's going to be so much fun to design with these Lego pieces, and just can't wait to show you my idea. So let's go to the work table and get started.
This video is guaranteed to make you smile and have fun. So I started today's jewelry projects by dumping my cup of Lego bricks and bits and pieces from the Bricks and Minifig store that I went to with my son. And I sorted them a little bit and played with them and started to create with some other things from my stash. So I found that polymer clay beads and Heishi beads looked fabulous with the bricks. What I was looking for when I was searching for the pieces to make jewelry would be Lego bricks and pieces that already have a hole in them. I also was searching for some of these small flower studs to embellish my pieces, but I'll show you why I was looking for these in particular, because some time ago I made some Lego earrings where they are drilled. And I did not want to do that. Here's another pair where they are drilled. And I did not want to do that. I wanted this project to be no power tools and very easy. And I was also thinking that fall break and winter break would be a great time to do this, to allow children to work with you. You have to be in charge of a lot of the supplies, the glue, the pliers, and that sort of thing. But I also thought these would be great gifts for teachers or for children in your life, nieces, nephews, grandchildren. And also, when my son was little, we went to a Lego club meeting once a month and other Lego events, and I was a school volunteer, and I thought I was the coolest mom because I had Lego earrings. But anyway, from my supplies, I went with these color-coded jump rings and lobster claw clasps, and you'll see them as we go forward. And I got these from two sources, one of the local craft stores and from Amazon, and I'll talk to you about some of the difficulties in using them, but the colors were just fabulous with the Lego pieces. And I also discovered that a couple of things from the dollar store were really great for necklaces to go with this. So my first necklace that I made is a rocket ship made from Lego pieces. And I didn't glue this down. I literally fit some of the pieces together, making sure that one of my selections with a hole was at the top. And I used one of those colored jump rings. And for my chain, I used this eyeglass cord that I found at the dollar store. And there were a few colors, and I had purchased them a couple of years ago just to have in my supplies because I was thinking summer fun jewelry that you could get sunscreen on, and I didn't actually use them. But for this project, it just looks great and really fun for a teacher or a child. And then there's those color-coded lobster claw clasp and jump ring that I did as the closure. So that was my first necklace. I showed it to my son and I said, "How do you like my rocket ship?" And he said, "Mommy, it looks like a dodo bird." So don't ask me why, but that's what he saw in it. But the other thing that I thought was really cute is to use the Lego charms or the Lego bricks as a charm on a stretch bracelet made with the Hishi beads. So I did add a little metal presence and a little crystal in there, and then took one of the flower studs and just for a decoration. Now, if you wanted to, you could glue these so that they would never come off, but the Lego pieces stay pretty well. And if you don't glue things together, then the person you gift this to has the opportunity to change it around if they want to play around with their Lego bricks. So that was my cute little stretch bracelet. And so we're going to do one of those together and 4 pairs of really amazing earrings. So I already prepared my tag, my Lego tag charm with a little red flower stud. And these came from Hobby Lobby, which in America is one of our national chains. And I just thought that this strand just worked beautifully with this Lego brick. And I pulled out also some polymer clay beads from my stash. And I believe that these beads also came from Hobby Lobby. I'm not sure, but polymer clay beads are readily available and they are pretty much always bright and colorful. So it should not be a difficult supply to find. And then also I had in my bead soup a little bit of beads and metal spacers from an old Jesse James beads colorful mix. So I just went into my bead soup, and I would advise you to do that for these projects is use your leftover bits and mix and match the colors and just have a great time designing this. So I wanted to share a technique with you for stringing a stretch cord bracelet. So this is my little piece of stretch cord, and if you've never done these before, you know you need to pre-stretch it before you tie your knots. It just makes it last a little bit longer. So that is ready to go. And if you guys have never seen this, Beadalon makes an elastic cord needle. It's quite long. See if I can show it to you in the camera. It has a tiny hook on the end, trying to turn it so that the camera picks it up. It has a tiny hook on the end, but it is so tiny. It goes through almost every bead. I have found some that you can't string on. And then this looped end just stops your beads from going off. But for a project like this where you have to string a lot of small beads, or in this case, I'm going to keep this strand of flower-shaped Hishi beads intact and string it right on to this needle. Or if you have a lot of them to make, if I sit down to do a bunch of gifts, a whole bunch of stretch bracelets, this needle is really fabulous. So I'm going to just cut this blue strip or strand of Hishi beads off of my other 2 strands, and I am going to carefully unleash these beads because I really want to just keep this pattern. It's a little bit tricky, but I might have to go here because they have looped. Oh, there, it's coming off. Okay. So here's what you do with this. I would not advise to let children use this needle because if you run your finger this way, that is really, really sharp. So I would, if children are stringing with you, making your patterns and helping you, I would not let them use this needle. Of course, you have to determine the ages and the skill level of the children you're working with, but I'm going to see if I can fit it right on here while the cord, while the temporary string is going through, and it is working. So if you can see what I'm doing, this makes stringing super fast and super easy, and I am just recycling the pattern that is already on this strand of beads. Now, what I have found is that a full length on this needle is a little bit over an 8-inch bracelet. So if you need a larger one, you know, that's fine. But I don't think I'm going to need, that much for this bracelet. I usually do these about 7.5 inches. But again, it depends on if you want your stretch bracelet to be moving around or if you want it to be tightened down. But I am going to take off one whole section of these beads because I want to have, let's see, how do I want to do it? Yeah, I'll take off this whole section. I'll just put those in a little plastic bag when I'm all finished stringing because I want to do this little bit of a pattern here. So let's see, I'm going to start with the orange and then one of these little gold spacers and then one of these blue beads and a gold spacer. And again, these are just from my bead soup. And these beads you'll see in my other projects. I did take a little bead reamer just because the holes in these, they do fit on everything, but they had a little bit of clay inside. So if you can see, it just like I just cleaned it out just so that they moved freely, but it's not necessary. But those little bead reamers do come in handy. So I think this one is still going to be a little bit too long. So I want to remove some beads from this end. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and string it, and then I will add my little focal pattern after I have strung it. But just to show you how you can work with these needles. So all you do is hook, I hope the camera is focusing on this very thin needle and this invisible stretch cord, but all you do is hook your stretch cord under the needle. Can you see what I did? And then you might want to put a bead bug or a stopper on this end so that you don't slide your beads right off the end. But it's quite easy after that because then you just bring your he/she beads right onto your stretch cord. I don't have a bead stopper on mine, but I'm going to be very careful so that I don't pull it right off the other end. If you've never used this before, you might want to take that precaution, but I'm watching the other end carefully. And then you just remove the needle from your stretch cord. And you do want to make sure that when you tie your knot that you're way away from the part that went under the needle because it does compromise that little piece of the stretch cord. And I already pre-stretched this. So now I can hold both ends and kind of see my bracelet is going to be perfect when I get my focal on. So let's just string that again. I don't have a stopper on this end, so I'm going to be really careful. So I'm going to string on this orange crystal, a small gold spacer, one of my ocean blue glass beads, and then I think I'm going to string on my tag that I already prepared with a really large red color-coded jump ring. And pull this end because I don't have a stopper, and it's very easy to pull all your beads off the other end. Then my polymer clay bead, and then just repeat the pattern on the other side with my blue glass bead, the gold spacer, and an orange bead. And that bracelet is done and so cute. So cute. Now we're just going to tie it off. So I do this really simply. I just do one knot, one overhand knot, and then a surgeon's knot, which is an overhand knot where you go around twice. and I just pull it down really nice and tight, and then I add GS Hypo Cement. You know, I never hear jewelry people saying a very important fact about stretch cord bracelets. They are not meant to last as long as other stringing materials. They are really fun to make, fun to wear, easy on and off, but they just are not meant to last forever. So when I'm putting these together, I do not stress, because I may wear it a season or two and then recycle my beads, cut it away, either restring it or put the beads back in my stash. But, you know, people just don't tell you that about stretch bracelets, that you can't look at it as a piece of jewelry that you're going to have forever. So just bear that in mind. And there are many ways to do knots on stretch cord, but I just do this simple knot, and then I want to keep it small, especially on these flower Hishi beads, because I do want to hide it inside. And I just use my GS Hypo Cement. It has this tiny little tip, and I can get glue right inside, right on that knot, just a tiny bit. And I have never had one of my stretch cord bracelets come apart. I've just never had a problem doing it this way. But there is even, depending on your stretch cord, on Stretch Magic, I believe there's even an instruction on the spool that the stretch cord comes on that you can follow for if you want to do a more complicated, more serious knot. But as I said, this project is just for fun, not to be taken too seriously. I just pulled that knot and the glue right inside the first few Hishi beads, and I have hidden it, and I'll set this aside to dry. But isn't that the cutest little bracelet with a Lego tag charm and a little flower embellishment? So again, if you glue this down, it will stay that way forever. But if you're giving this to a little girl or a teacher, she may want to change this out to different colors or put another Lego brick on top of the studs here. So I have left mine like that, but those are so cute. So we're going to move on to some really fun earrings. And so this is what my first one looks like. It's just a colorful creation, again, with no drilling. I'm using a Lego piece that already has a hole in the top. And this was just a simple head pin, simple eye pin. And I just strung on some beads from my bead soup. I believe this bead soup, this was part of another, that same Jesse James beads sort of leftover mix that I hadn't used everything in, but I just added a tiny little bit of bling, if you could see what I did there. And I am going to simply pull in my one-step looper, because you guys know that I really love making loops with that. And just do a quick matching loop on the other end of this eye pin. Get it nice and straight. Bring in some pliers. And now this is just a simple connection point. These are 10 or 12 millimeter jump rings. I am not sure, but because of the thickness of my Lego bricks, I needed a large jump ring for it to really hang well. And I have to tell you, I do not know where I got these jump rings, but they are horrible. The circles don't line up, and the gauge of the wire is so thick that you have to get a hold of it with all of your strength. If you can see, when I'm trying to close it, the gauges don't line up. So I struggled. I don't remember where I got these, but when I go back and look at my past orders, my order history, I will make sure that I never recommend this on my channel, because I would have been better to make my own, because I had to sort of finagle every single one of these jump rings to get a nice round circle. And that one didn't go too badly, but my others were quite difficult. So I'm just going to open one end of this eye pin and just connect everything just the way I did the other one. And this is a fast, fun, colorful pair of earrings for a teacher or as I said, be the coolest mom at the Lego events or as a school volunteer. And so I was really wanted to create some fun, fast earrings that are simple, no drilling. So there is our second earring. Aren't they so fun and colorful? I just love them. I think they're so pretty. Little bit of metal presence, but they're not too serious at all. They make me laugh. Ever since my son was really, really little, he has loved Lego. And so, as I said, monthly Lego club meetings, and he's been to Lego stores all over Europe. And it's a thing. So this is my next crazy long earring. And I found these sort of gears in the Lego bins that I was digging through, and I looked at them and thought, how cool to make components out of them. So this is a super long earring, and I have already connected most of the other one because, as I told you, I'm using jump rings that I'm not happy with. I bought them they came in all different metal finishes, and they're all equally not lined up. So I really had to struggle to straighten everything out. But all I did on this one is, again, another polymer clay, pretty bead with a flower on it. And I'm just going to copy this over here on a head pin. So I just went into my stash and found some silver flower bead caps that I didn't do anything too sparkly because, again, this is fun, whimsical, not so serious jewelry. So that's where my head was when I was pulling supplies. And this is just, again, a simple creating of bead patterns and stringing it on a head pin. So if your family wants to do this with you, this could be the part that you let them do. And then you could do the part with the tools. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you some other options for changing this Lego and polymer clay jewelry into other seasons. I found some other things in my stash as I was pulling items for this. You guys have seen me do this before, but I'm just going to stop talking and tell you I'm just straightening up my loops so everything is aligned while my component is still in this tool. And then it's straight when I take it off. So this is going to go at the top of the ear wire, this little component that we just made. And again, it's just a fun, colorful bead pattern on an eye pin. So I'm going to open the top of this eye pin and connect it to the ear wire, close it really well so everything stays together. And then this gets connected to the top of my first silver ring. And I'm going to open the eye pin because, as I said, these jump rings were really difficult to open and close. They were not good round shapes, and the gauge of the wire is so thick that it even made it difficult to correct that part. So what I did on these is took one of these blue color coded jump rings as a go-between between the Lego pieces, because this is one earring that you do have to pay attention to the orientation of the way things are facing, because these little Lego components really do have a front and a back. I wanted the part with the studs to be facing forward and this part to be the back. So I needed a go-between jump ring in between each of the links that I made. And, that gave me the orientation that I needed. So on these color-coated jump rings, you have to be really careful because you can scrape the paint right off of them with your pliers if your plier slips off, or if you're too harsh with your pliers. So let me show you what it looks like. These will spin around, but I did want to connect them so that each of my Lego pieces are studs facing forward, and then there's a little colored jump ring in between each one. And these are crazy long and crazy fun. I just had so much fun with these. So if you were making these for a teacher or making these for the bus driver and you thought you would do the design but do them a little bit shorter, that is totally up to you. You could do just one of these little Lego components or two or three. I had found so many colors when I was going through the bins at the Lego store, and I decided to just alternate and do them super colorful. So the next pair I really love. These are also really fun, colorful. I used another one of those polymer clay Heishi beads, and I used a little bling clay bead and another one of those little round gear looking components. And this is, again, a really simple earring to connect. So I just started with an eye pin, strung on that polymer clay bead, and then a bead cap facing up, my little clay sparkling bead, a bead cap facing down, and now this is ready to get a loop at the other end. And it is that simple. And this is also simple connecting. So I am going to open this end and then put my jump ring on this little Lego, which is now a jewelry component. And I do want to pay attention to the orientation again, because I want these studs on the Lego piece to be facing forward. And you'll see these jump rings they are so difficult. So I ended up doing this, kind of squeezing them into place so that I could get a nice round shape, but they are just really difficult. But I got it. Aren't they cute? These are the cutest earrings. I think about my days as school volunteer and all the gifts that I made for teachers. And, if you have a little girl in your life that loves earrings, this could be so cute. And you could even take these ideas and instead of making earrings or charms for bracelets, these could be great purse charms or backpack charms too. So, the kids could have fun with them. And one last pair of earrings. This earring is a little bit unusual. So this is what the finished piece looks like. And again, I was looking for Lego bricks that I could attach things to without having to drill a hole or have any sort of power tools. So I ended up using a piece of 22 gauge craft wire to make sort of a lark's head knot on the top of this brick. And so let me show you how I did it. We'll do it together. I'm almost out of room. I feel like I've been playing with Lego for 2 days, which I guess I have. So let me get the components out for this one. This is the 22 gauge wire that I used. It's just Beadsmith craft wire. And so what I did is I even left the studs off so that I could show you how much fun it is. I wanted to mirror my design on these earrings, so I did the flower at the bottom and then alternated my other pink studs. And again, if you wanted to put a little bit of E6000 glue or super glue and so that these never come off, that would be totally up to you. But I sort of left them because I thought, if you wanted to take these off and even put a Lego minifig hanging from this, you could. So I did sort of a crazy thing with this 22 gauge craft wire. I just sort of bent it in half and I put it through my opening of my Lego brick. And then I pulled it I'm sort of pretending that it's a piece of string that we would create a lark's head knot with, but I'm doing it with wire. So it is a little bit difficult to get it started. But if you can see what I did there, it's just the same as you would create a lark's head knot with other stringing material. And then I am going to grab a hold of this with my pliers and give it a pull, because I found I wasn't strong enough to get it to grab onto my Lego brick with just my hands. But once I did that, it was a lot better. And then I want to try to, since they're earrings, I do want to try to match it to the other one. So I just pulled until it was nice and tight around my piece. And I came in here and pinched at the top, pinched it closed, and just to position it before I make my loop. Now this is one of those projects where you have to be the boss of the wire. And even under here on this Lego piece, I needed to sort of tighten it. I want it to be really nice and tight and secure. So I just did a little bit of pushing and pulling with my pliers until I was happy with the way that it sat. So now I'm going to hold on to my Lego piece really firmly and do a twist. And I'm just going to get my twisting motion going and make these two wires become one twisted wire. And at that point, I will make my normal loop that I would make. And this is supposed to be not perfect. Again, just a really fun project. Now, again, I'm paying attention to the orientation. So I want this loop to be going backwards. So that's the way I'm going to do my wire wrap. So I'm just going to grab it here and give it a 90-degree bend, just the way we would a normal wire wrapped loop. And then put my round nose pliers in there. It's a little bit strange feeling to grab onto twisted wire to make a loop, but just ignore that it wiggles a little bit and go ahead and do your normal motions that you would do for a normal wire wrapped loop. And since it's twisted wire and it's very organic and just fun and not too planned out, I'm just going to kind of have a look and just try to match, since it is earrings. And want to end my wraps around the back of my Lego piece before I trim. So when I twist wire, I always want to fuss with it a little bit with my plier to get it exactly where I want, but I'm really happy with that. I'm going to trim off at the back. And then, like always, we don't want anything sharp. So I tend to tuck and then run my fingers over it to make sure. And let's see, how do we do? Lovely. Okay, now for the top part of this earring is a simple create your pattern and string it on an eye pin. So I'm going to start with one of these little small silver flower bead caps and a pink crackle bead, a bead cap, this pretty polymer clay, pink and purple flower bead, and then do that same pattern, bead cap facing up, pink crackle bead, and bead cap facing down. And there's the little pattern on the eye pin for the second earring. And same thing, another little eye I'm going to create with the one-step looper. Get my beads down and out of the way. And just before I remove it from the tool, just my habit to straighten everything. And now we can connect to the Lego component that we made. This is so much fun. Close that really well. And now we connect to the ear wire. And simple as that, we have our, what are we on? Our third pair of earrings or fourth? One, two, oh, our fourth pair. I have made so much Lego jewelry the last 2 days. I really have lost count. Isn't it cute? This is a really fun standout, be the coolest mom or the coolest teacher or the coolest bus driver. So we have one last project to do, and it is a super fun, really interesting necklace. Let me clean my workstation just a tiny bit and pull in the supplies. So this is just a spool of nylon cord from the craft store. You could substitute this for many, many things, but this is what I had in color that matched. And I have created a Lego brick necklace. Let me take it out of my dish and lay it out on the mat with the last few pieces. I do have a lot of things on my work table. So here is this little component. Now, again, I did not glue this down. So this actually comes off of here. And so maybe you would want to glue it into place. I wasn't sure as I was designing if I was going to keep it like this, but I did the lark's head. I started designing and then I stopped so that I could show you all what I was doing. But let me take my bead off and show you. So I used my thread zapper to sort of melt the ends a little bit so that I could thread both of these strands through my polymer clay bead. So I'm going to do the other one. If any of you haven't ever used one of these thread zappers, it is amazing. It is so much better than trying to fool with a lighter or a match. You can also take like some clear nail polish or a little bit of glue to make these ends more stiff so that they go through the beads. But the thread zapper worked really well. And, you know, I love the ability to just press the button on the side of the thread zapper and I get a nice hard end. So that's what I did for that. And then for those of you that may not be familiar with a lark's head knot, let me untie this and show you what I did. It's really a simple loop that you make. And the only thing you really have to do is pay attention to which direction you put it in. So I'm going to match up my two ends and I want to put it through this little Lego brick the same way that I did on the other side of the necklace. So I'm just going to match up my two ends and then come from the back of my Lego component with both strands. And then for a lark's head knot, you just simply put the two ends back through that loop that you've created and just pull it down. So now it matches my other side. And so that's what it looks like. And then you tighten it down. And if you wanted to, you could put a knot here and then put some glue. I opted not to do that on mine, but you could. And when it's all finished, you could go back and put a little GS Hypo Cement. But I'm going to do that. And since I melted the ends of this nylon cord, it should go fairly easily through this polymer clay bead. And I had already reamed this bead as I showed you on the earlier ones, just because I found that with these polymer clay beads, there was a little bit of clay kind of blocking the hole. So there's how I started this side, and we're just going to repeat the same thing. I'm just going to hold my two pieces together and just do a simple overhand knot. And I didn't use a tool or anything. I just used my fingers to slide my knot right down close to my bead. And I just gave it a nice pull. And then this is a little fun stringing project. So you want to choose one of your strands, and that is going to go through the front part, the stud part of the Lego brick. And then the other strand is going to come up through the back of the Lego brick. And you'll see what it does. It creates where your stringing material is encasing that Lego piece, and it makes it lay flat and facing forward. So then I'm going to do an overhand knot just like I did before I strung the Lego piece on. And again, you could use like a knotting tool, or, I have a tweezer that I use when I'm doing a knotting project, but this was just a simple, fun. I didn't feel like I needed to make it too complicated. So I'm just working that knot down right to the Lego piece. Oh, I don't have it tight enough. See, it loosened up on this end. That's the only thing about this nylon cord. It's a little bit slippery. So it's a little bit hard sometimes to hold on to everything before you tighten your knot down, but that's okay. I didn't tighten it yet, so I can loosen this up and pull that down so that it's nice and tight next to the knot, the first knot. Hold it in place with my thumb like this, and then I'm just working that down to the Lego piece and then tightening it down. And then I'm going to repeat that for the other two pieces. So take one piece and go through the front of the Lego piece, and then take the other piece of string and come up through the back. And then just move it down to the knot and do another overhand knot. This is such a fun technique, which can also be used for beads. Looks great for any type of a bead that you want it to stay facing in a certain direction. Coin beads, check glass beads that have some kind of a pattern on it. It really helps keep them in place. As you can see, it keeps them facing the direction that you want. So one last time, cord goes through the front of the Lego piece. The other cord comes up through the back side of the Lego piece, and just pull it down to the knot and then tie an overhand knot. And then there again, I did not glue my embellishments onto my Lego piece because you'll see the pendant that is created for this necklace. You could change out. I put these little corner studs just for decoration, because again, I was working with things that I found, but you could not glue these in place and not even glue that in place. And then this pendant could be interchangeable with Lego minifigs, or change the color of bricks, or my son knows how to create hearts with the Lego bricks. So now we just have to do a clasp. Now on this end, I already did a double overhand knot on just one of those white painted jump rings. And here with this, you could use the thread zapper. You could leave it like this if you like that little bit of a sort of tassel look. But I think for me, I think I'm going to cut it. And let me get the scissors. For me, I think I'm going to cut it and then put a little bit of GS Hypo Cement on that knot to make sure that it stays in place. Just a little dot. You could use the thread zapper to melt it, but the reason I didn't do the thread zapper is because I wanted to get a little bit of glue on the front and back of this knot, just a little bit. I love the teeny tiny tip on the GS Hypo Cement. It really gives you control. So I'm just going to get a little bit sort of all around. The only thing is the GS Hypo Cement does keep oozing out. So you have to get the cap on it right away. So there's the one side. And then we just need to attach our lobster claw clasp on this end. So I'm just going to make sure that my two ends are matched up, and I have a jump ring here. So I think I need to close the jump ring, and I think I'm going to tie my knot right around the jump ring. Get both of my pliers. And again, with these painted findings, you have to be careful with your pliers not to remove the paint finish. So if your plier slips off, you really can damage it. So I've been playing with them a little bit and discovered that's sort of what I have to do, is hold it really well and be careful my plier doesn't slip off and remove the paint. So I'm just going to string that jump ring on. I want to make sure before I tie my knot on this side that everything is matching up so I don't have this cord looking strange or twisted. And I'm just going to do the same thing, just a little overhand knot. Then I will have to open that jump ring again to put my lobster claw clasp on, but I wanted to be able to tie my knot around it. And I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other end, just a double knot. Those ends being melted with the thread zapper really helps to get the two ends back through the knot. And I use my pliers to help me get a good, nice tight knot. But I am going to do the same thing where I trim it and put some glue in that knot to make sure that it stays. And I also like to put the opening part of the jump ring into the knot if I can turn it around to make it do that. But I'm just going to attach this painted white lobster claw clasp and close it back really carefully and just turn it around and scissors. Get rid of those little tails. But like I said, if you like that, the tails looking like a tassel and being frayed a little bit, and that's another look, kind of a boho look, but I'm doing mine this way. Just a simple little knotted closure and a little bit of GS Hypo Cement. Try to hold on to everything. They did such a good job with the tip on this, but you do have to get that pin back into the tip of the glue because it just keeps oozing out. And then you have a mess when you come back and open your glue again. Okay, we'll just set that aside to dry for a bit. But look how cute this necklace is. Oh my. I mean, I just think that it's so much fun, and again, interchangeable. So I hope that this brought you extreme joy. And as promised, I just want to show you what I found in my supplies, because if this ended up being a project for you and your kids or your family on a really hot summer day when it's too hot to go outside, I found these from Amazon. They are adorable little polymer clay flip-flop charms, and they just go so well with all of the Lego colors. I mean, they just really, let me pull in something else. So here, one of these earrings has all the colors, but look at all the colors. So you could easily turn this into a seasonal project depending on the other beads and things that you pull in. But don't make this project too serious. It's a really fun, just stringing projects, connecting projects, and creating bead patterns. And I know that I had a lot of joy in the whole process, from digging for the Lego pieces at the store with my son to the bead patterns, pulling all the colorful things from my supplies. It was just joyful. So thank you all for being with me today. I hope you have fun on your beading mats. Ciao, jewelry makers.